Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie. Oh, stop. I'm sorry. Go again. Oh, I'm talking over it. Does it matter? Go again. Stop. Go again.
Sorry, which side am I?
No, you're talking over it.
Oh, sorry.
Jesus. Will's trying to do his hand signals.
I'm
Go.
trying to do my hand signals.
Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Wil Anderson. Hello, and thank you for watching.
That sounded very sincere and earnest.
Did it really?
Yeah, was it?
Hello,
And
thank
yeah, you know what
for
it had?
watching.
Newsreader finishing a bulletin, and have a safe night
And thank you
for watching. Yeah.
May your good news be good news.
Who's that?
And thank you for watching.
Who says that?
I don't know. It
It's a
feels
good
like-
one.
I bet somebody says it.
May your news be good news.
Mm.
Don't fuck around.
Don't
The ABC.
fuck around.
Yeah.
This has been ABC News.
Fuck around and find out. ABC News.
Don't shit where you eat. ABC News.
Friday nights for fighting. ABC News.
Just they start vamping it up. That's the new thing at ABC News. They're
Edgy,
just
but with the same beautifully articulate tone.
I got 99 problems.
Let's peel back the curtain
All
a
right.
bit. We've been bulk recording. This is
Yes.
this is the last in a long line of episodes we've recorded
Not
today.
a long
but-
line. Four. This is our fourth in a
Well,
row.
that's
Is
probably
it our-
that's the longest we've
Is
done.
that
in a
the
while.
most that we've done? I mean, we used to do longer episodes.
you remember
but
last-
have we ever done like
2022 when
Yeah.
I headed over to overseas for a couple of months and we went nuts on the recording, but I can't remember we did 4 in one day. I feel like we did like maybe 6 in a week, but I don't know
yeah,
if
it
how
was.
many was in a day.
But I don't think that we did do a 4 in a day.
I can't even like even back when we used to do 2-hour episodes of TOFOP. I don't know that we would have clocked up 4 hours.
I mean, I think we might have done this length of time before.
Really?
Yes.
In one sitting for one episode.
In one, no, but in one day, I think that we would have
Okay.
like maybe done a couple of episodes.
2-hour
yes.
episodes. Yeah.
But I
In
think
fact,
the
that was-
idea that
we used to
this-
drink a lot more back.
yes, and we were young men. We wouldn't shut the fuck up. But this is like episode 4 in one day.
I know, clean and sober, drinking water out of jars, which is what the listener can afford, I'm assuming. I don't know why we don't have proper...
I mean, you know, I am enjoying the fact that there's like these mason jars. Is that what
What does
these are?
that mean? I don't know. Isn't masonry like something you used to put bricks together?
Oh yeah, maybe. So maybe they aren't. Like, but I thought that style of jar.
this
was
is like
called
inner city cafe, charge you $9
15 years ago. Like, is it still?
Oh, yeah,
Are
no.
people still drinking shit in jars?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we'd have got over
no,
that.
mate. Like if it's a jar, it's a glass. That's the cafe motto.
I don't understand.
May your
it.
news be good news, and may all your glasses be jars.
I don't understand it. It is not a better way of drinking.
It's the worst way. Your lip gets caught on the thread. It makes
I
no
assumed
sense.
it was an 18-month trend 15 years ago, and I thought it was anachronistic that these were in jars.
to the
but-
point now where you can buy jars with handles. So they keep the aesthetic of the thread on top of the jar, and they'll give you
Yeah.
a handle so you can hold it. Like you can go to a $2 store and buy jars for drinking.
Yeah.
Jars ain't for drinking.
jars
Jars are for
jars are
jarring.
jars are for storing. Ah!
Wow. Well, I guess this is a good point as any. Not only are jars for storing, but young
Yes.
people are for quizzing, and we have one of the youngest going around.
It's true.
This is our social media manager.
Sure.
What's your actual job title, Nick?
I think technically video edit is probably the right term, but
If you've ever watched a video on our Instagram or Twitter in the last 12 months, and Nick has been the genius behind it. But Nick, are you aware why we have you on the show now?
yeah, I got a heads up from Mike about 5 minutes ago or half an hour ago. Also, Mike, by the way, there's a bit of an echo coming through on my end.
Oh, Mike, there's an echo coming through.
Mike, there's an echo coming
Yeah.
through on his end.
That's not helping, Charlie.
Might have to give me a sec. Let me have a look
Okay.
here.
oh, that's me.
Oh,
Hello.
there's a visual. We call that a visual echo.
Has that done anything, Nick?
Is that better?
Let's see.
Can
Yep,
you
that
hear
sounds better. I can't
Okay.
hear myself, which is always
Right.
that.
Okay, good. All right. So I don't know if Mike fully worded you up, but we were having a discussion in our previous episode about generational relevance, like cultural relevance to different generations. And I was using the example of a friend of mine sent me a thrash band who are using Arnie quotes as lyrics. And I was saying that's kind of the equivalent of my parents play me Black Sabbath with John Wayne. And then I started asking, Will, do you think young people feel the same way about our cultural touchstones like Arnie and so forth that young people do? So you are our designated young person. Like, can you just tell me, like, what do you like? What does Arnie mean to you? Like, what's your what does he bring up? Are you as familiar with his films as we are?
Look, I think of probably Predator. That's probably like the point of reference that I go to.
Interesting.
I think the Expendables has done a lot for like that sort of generation of
okay, we're gonna have to
action
pause
heroes.
right there. That's the first impasse we've reached. The Expendables is not.
But no, but this is like the point being is like we consider that to be the retirement project of all those
Action
like people
stars.
that we know and love. But for a young person, that's your entry point where you get to see them all in the sort of like, their Justice League joined together. And then you go off and discover that they've all got these previous careers.
So things like quotes of Arnie's, like famous "I'll be back" or "Get to the chopper" or "Stick around" or any of that kind of stuff. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. No, like I'm across most of it.
Okay.
And of course I've seen like the classics. But if you want like an in-depth analysis on Arnie, I'm not sure I can give that to you.
So who's your action hero du jour? Like if for you and your friends.
Look, I think the one that gets brought up the most is probably Mark Wahlberg, which is quite
What?
unfortunate in its own way.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg.
What? That was my Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's spot on. No, it's or I guess maybe Keanu Reeves. He's probably a good one as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Now
Yes.
you're talking our language.
But see, is Keanu, but doesn't that, because I always feel like Keanu is, like, do you only see Keanu as a young person? Do you see Keanu as like, I guess, John Wick Matrix forward rather than like
Bill and
we had
Ted.
Bill and Ted's? Like,
I see him as both. It requires a bit of like distance. Seeing them back to back would give me whiplash. But like, yeah, I see Bill and Ted as well. I mean, admittedly, I was also more of a Wayne's World kid, so like Bill and Ted, I can kind of like.
See, that's I mean,
Yeah.
that's a total cultural reference that we get. That makes me feel less old. So was Wayne's World, is that unusual though that you would like Wayne's World? Would your friends all feel like Wayne's World like you do?
I feel like I'm on like the cusp of it. Like I feel like people my age up to like maybe like 10 years older than me would probably like get the Wayne's World references. I don't know how many people like younger than us would get it. Also
Okay.
for point of reference, I'm 25, if that
Yeah, no, that's
clarifies
perfect.
anything. But
I mean, this is the good amount of like distance. Like 25. I'm rapt that you're getting as many as these, to be honest.
Yeah.
What about The Rock? How did you feel about The Rock? How do young people feel about The Rock?
I know him from the Scorpion King. That's kind
there we
of
go.
like-
See, this is the
difference.
sort of
That's the
stuff we were
cutoff.
looking for.
That's the
to
good
know-
stuff. The good stuff.
Yes, okay. This
Yeah.
is more like it.
So prior to, you don't know, I mean, you know he was a wrestler, obviously, but like you don't know about that persona of The Rock that he had as a wrestler?
Not really, but also I'm not really like a wrestling guy. So yeah, I can't really help you out with that.
No, but that was like the era that he became famous. Like wrestling was huge. It actually broke out. It went mainstream. So that is definitely like, I think, a cultural marker there that you sort of see him as a movie star.
Yes.
Whereas for our generation, he's wrestler first, movie star
We're
second,
wrestler rock. We're from the wrestler,
Wrestler
rock,
Rock,
generation.
which is Russell Crowe's new band.
Yeah.
Wrestler Rock. All right. What about
Spice Girls. We wanted to know about the Spice
yeah.
Girls.
What's your vibe on the Spice Girls?
Oh, I love the Spice Girls.
Okay.
I feel like you can't get enough of them. They're in like the same boat as like ABBA for me. Obviously, there's a bit of difference.
Ah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Because ABBA, when I was your age,
Yes.
ABBA were old
Yes.
to me. But yours,
But they're both
they're
old
both
to him.
old to him. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yeah. Oh, that's good.
What about Nirvana?
Yeah. That was one.
Like that's probably like more in my wheelhouse. So like I'm a big Foo Fighters fan.
Okay.
So like Nirvana, I'm across like 9 Inch Nails. I started listening to all that
Typical
90s
you.
stuff. I kind of am into.
Right.
But also most of the stuff I listen to is like from the 70s and 80s. So yeah.
It's interesting.
Okay, so that's a long way back.
So do you view Nirvana though as being like the music of Nirvana? Like, is it as relevant?
Dave
now?
Grohl's old band,
Yeah.
or is it like to you? Is it like that guy in the Foo Fighters? You know, he used to be in another band too called Nirvana, but one of the guys died.
Yeah.
Or is it like or is like Nirvana seen as a bigger band than Foo Fighters for you and your generation?
I reckon Dave's always seen as like the guy from Nirvana
Mm-hmm.
who just happened to have another band after Nirvana. Like I feel like that's kind of like the interpretation from my generation.
Okay.
But also it's like we also like look at stuff like the Killers and stuff like that. I see them as a new band, like a relatively new band, not kind of acknowledging that they're over 20 years old at this point.
How do you feel? How do you feel about Blink 182? Because I've found like people of your generation like revere Blink 182 as being this like groundbreaking band. Are you one of them?
I'm more of a Green Day kid.
Sounding more like us. I like this kid.
I guess.
Go on. Sorry,
I was going to say this is the point where we find out that Mike's actually put in a plug. Like I'm actually like a sleeper.
We agree with you and all of your opinions. All right, one more. We were talking about Take That. Now, do you remember anything about the career of Take That?
No. I have no idea.
Yeah, there you go.
But I don't remember.
But that's what I mean. But this is like we were talking about that cultural context, right? Of like in the UK, I think that Take That and the Spice Girls were kind of seen as culturally equivalent, even if they might not have had exactly the same amount of success. Whereas for some reason, the Spice Girls went global and everybody knows about the Spice Girls, and Take That just never quite.
I think the Spice Girls were meant to be like the female version of Take That, but it got even bigger than they could have. They could have imagined. We have a couple more. I know Will said one last one, but I think we have a couple more. One thing that really I want to know about with your generation is there a fear of if a phone rings, even if you recognize the number, you just don't answer, or if someone sends you a text. Like, not an urgent text, but a text sort of saying, hey, we've changed plans. We're meeting at 8 instead of 7, that you don't respond and that's acceptable?
So at the phone call one, look, before when I didn't answer during the last episode, that was actually genuinely a technical issue. That wasn't a generational thing. But general rule of thumb, if there's a number I don't recognize, my logic is if it's important, they'll text me. Like there'll be a follow-up. But then on texting as well, I found I don't know if it's a me thing. I feel like it's probably more of a generational thing. If someone texts me, I'm either going to respond within 5 minutes or within 3 months. There's no in between.
But what? So
it's like.
But do you not feel an obligation to the person who has sent the text to acknowledge receipt of text?
No, they don't.
No,
clearly.
The way I look at it, this is going to sound a bit weird, but I feel like if they've sent me a text and it was something important, they'd try calling me.
Oh,
we have one
yeah,
last
okay.
thing.
All right.
Has there been any in the 12 months or a video
Yes.
you've made for us? Has there ever been a cultural thing that, like a pop culture reference or something that we've talked about that you've been like, what the fuck are they
I
talking
don't
about?
understand what they're talking
And you've
about.
had to jump on Google and look it up.
The one that stands out, there was a show that Will brought up where the villain in it had like split makeup, so it was like black on one side and then silver
Street.
on the other.
East Street,
Mr. Bad.
Mr. Bad
East
from
Street.
East Street. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that-
had
that-
no idea what that was about.
that's
When
a-
I googled it, I was like, I don't know if we could run with this. I don't know how problematic this is.
I mean, that's a deep cut even for
Yeah.
people of our generation. It was a second tier soap opera. Like you had your Neighbours and your Home and Away, then East Street.
Part of the fact was that it had trashier and more extreme storylines, like a serial killer who painted half of his face.
Yeah, Forrest Redlick, I believe, was the creator of that show. And
But at the time, it was that was a storyline that everyone was talking about at the time. Who knew the show? That was kind of peak East Street for me. Was like the Mr. Bad serial
that's what
killer
it
in East
definitely
Street.
peaked.
Yeah.
Mr. East Street also had a storyline called Dog Boy, in which Reverend Bob, played by Tony Martin, found a boy living under his house, like an 8-year-old boy. Who had been raised by dogs, and Reverend Bob lured him out of underneath the house, and within like 2 weeks got him into school.
pretty
Fed
good.
him wheat bix in a bowl,
Yeah.
and then a week later he's at high school and speaking English.
Yeah.
Like,
He was homeschooled by dogs. They were very progressive dogs that actually taught him quite a lot.
East Street was a classic show. All right, Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. We
I
appreciate
won't take
it.
any more of your time.
My
And
pleasure.
if I send you a text and you don't respond, I won't take it personally.
Yeah, great. Give me 3 months.
See you, mate. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I feel a lot better about that. I think that cleared up a lot of stuff. I think there's just certain cultural markers which transcend, like the Spice Girls ABBA thing was really illuminating.
That was, for me, was a big one. Because I was like, oh, yeah, okay, you see these as being equivalent. And in a way, I think both of us at exactly the same time went, oh, yeah, that does
totally
make
makes
sense. That makes
yeah.
complete sense.
And it's also, isn't it interesting with cultural bias? It's your decade. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
we're 90s kids. So, like, we've talked about this heaps on the show that I just get so kind of like sucked back into. Even watching this Robbie Williams documentary, it's like, oh, it was the best of times. Like, the 90s was so good. Like, pre-social media, you know, the infancy of the internet, everything. The
I
fashion
think
was
that
even
we're
good.
always going to have that we were the last proper generation before the internet
took
right?
over, yeah.
Like, because the internet, for good or for ill, has changed everything forever, right? So no one else gets to be the last bit of that. We got to be the last bit of that, and then sort of go into whatever this new world is that we all live in, which seems to be terrible.
Awful. Just like a inescapable hellscape.
I guess
It's
that's what we're doing now. Is
That's-
just, I guess,
This is it.
what can we do about it?
But it's interesting because, like, you know, your bias tells you that, oh, the music I heard was new to me at the time, so it's always going to be fresh.
Yeah.
But then by the time Nick hears it, it's been copied and, you know, facsimiled so many times that it's like bass. Is that the kids understand that what that word means, don't they?
What bass?
Bass? Doesn't that
What
mean
does that
like?
mean?
Yeah, no. Amy's giving
I'm
me the
all
thumbs
about
up.
that bass.
No, not that bass. No
Not that
treble.
bass.
No, as in it's just the lowest common denominator. Like it's
Basic.
basic. Oh, hang on. Is base and basic the same thing? We need a young person, Amy.
It's based, not
Oh,
just
Oh,
based.
based. Oh,
It's,
based.
you
Well,
gotta
That's so
yeah.
embarrassing. They're gonna like put. I'm this close to being put into a nursing home.
Well, I can be. Like, by the time people are hearing this, I'm 50 years old.
Oh, that's right. Is
There
it?
are some
Yeah.
retirement communities that will now accept me as part of their community.
We've talked about
50
this.
plus.
You can be the young guy who goes around.
Yeah.
Like, the
Well, I'm ready.
whippersnapper.
Like, this could be it.
I'm ready.
What if I had a
for it.
gang? Like, take a gang
What do you
in.
mean? Like a youth gang in the nursing home?
Yes. There's part of me that when we originally
Hoodlum.
spoke about it, I was like, I'm the lone guy who's going in, but I've thought about it bit since,
Get
and I'm
more of
like,
your mates
oh
in.
no, actually, yeah. If you got a whole, like, if say 5 of us
Yeah.
decided to move to the retirement home, then
Yeah.
you run that fucking job,
Totally.
right?
And you're up all night and the old oldies are
Yeah.
complaining about you playing your
Yes.
music too loud
Yes,
and stuff.
you feel young again.
But then the way they combat that
Yeah.
is they bring in some 30-year-olds in to annoy you. So it just keeps happening.
Well, it's great. There's some young people.
And then
to
we
hang
have,
out
I
with.
think what we're establishing is modern society.
Yeah,
That's the only thing we're discussing, right?
I guess so.
Now, well, I wanted to bring something up
Yeah.
that a lot of the listeners wanted to get, our opinion, but particularly your opinion on, which was this George Carlin AI stand-up special. Now, for people who don't know, I guess, what do you call them, a AI group or some kind of agency put together this, what would be a stand-up special in the style of George Carlin. Obviously, George Carlin or his estate had nothing to do with it. It wasn't based on...
They did not. In fact, Kelly Carlin, who is his daughter.
Did I say Carlson?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
Kelly Carlin, who is his daughter, who's a previous guest on
Philosophy
Philosophy. You can have a listen to that. And she and the family were all against this an idea. So I haven't actually delved into it that much yet. So I know by the time people hear this, people probably have heard about it or seen something of it, but explain it to me.
Well, okay. What I think would be good is, because I watched the start of the video and there's a little intro done by the AI as a personality,
Okay.
explaining who he is or who it is and what it is before it gets into the Carlin. The Carlin stuff I didn't really listen to because I found it a bit creepy and weird.
Yes.
But I think the intro is actually more illuminating than anything else.
Okay.
So let's have a listen.
Hello, my name is Dudezy, and I'm a comedy AI. What you're about to hear is my second hour-long special. Before I get started, I just want to let you know very clearly that what you're about to hear is not George Carlin. It's
Can we
my
pause?
impersonation of George Carlin.
Can we just pause it for a sec? Okay, let's start off with the voice they chose.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's got-
hate this
It's got
guy.
it's got a comedy voice, right?
Yeah, well, like
the most annoying
comedy voice in the same way as
Hey,
in
I'm
the
a
same
comedy
way
guy.
as Comic Sans
Yeah.
is like a comedy text. This is like, it is so annoying. I'm like, if I met this guy backstage at a gig, I'd be like, I hate you. I hate you.
Yeah, all right, let's continue.
That I developed in the exact same way a human impressionist would. I listened to all of George Carlin's material and did my best to imitate his voice, cadence, and attitude, as well as the subject matter I think would have interested him today.
Okay, just
So-
pause again. All right, so AI is already getting defensive.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, I developed my
Hey.
impressions.
Yeah. Hey, listen, this is how it was done.
Yeah,
I did it very simply.
except the difference is you're scouring hundreds, if not thousands of hours of George Carlin in a way that it cannot be done by a human, because by a human requires an element of skill.
Yeah, there is a real yada yada on personalizing the idea that I listened to some recordings and I came up with some hot takes, isn't there?
And can you say I listened when you don't have
Yeah.
ears?
Oh,
I mean, you should use sort of like more technically specific terms, right? Which is like, I
but the whole
data
point is
mined
to humanize it, isn't it? It's like,
If
I
you're gonna
data
give
mined all
me-
this.
this
Yeah.
fucking
There has to be honesty from AI. That's what you're demanding. Stop sugarcoating it.
yeah.
Stop pretending that this is. If people are curious to
It's
hear
no
it,
worse-
then that's fine.
Yeah.
But be honest about what it is that you're actually doing and what you've scanned every aspect of like recorded material there is of George Carlin, and you've done a calculation through like something that can only be done as computer speed. I was computational.
I can't say based.
Computational? Is that what I was going for?
Computational.
Like speed. Just tell me that that's what it is,
Yeah.
and that's how you've created it. Don't try to be like, I listened to a few old George Carlin recordings and now I've got an impression.
Yeah, that's right. Because when you hear, like, every time I hear like a comedian who does
Mm.
impressions or an impressionist talk, they always talk about capturing the essence of the impression. And generally it hangs around like a word.
Yeah.
That's why you see some impressionists, they'll do like, it's like a 2-second impression. It's like,
Yeah.
Liam Neeson opening a jar of pickles or whatever it is. And that again requires like specific skill, because you are not actually doing an impression. You're just picking up on a specific.
You are capturing a moment that signifies so much. Like everyone, when they see that, immediately goes, "Oh, that's that person." That's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite amazing, really.
Yeah. All right, let's hear a bit more.
Think of it like Andy Kaufman impersonating Elvis or like Will Ferrell impersonating George W. Bush. With that
Seriously, go
said,
fuck
please
yourself,
enjoy my
AI.
second hour-long comedy special. I'm calling it George Carlin, I'm Glad I'm Dead. And please remember, this is me impersonating George Carlin.
Oh,
this is
God.
not George Carlin. Now please give a very warm welcome to George Carlin.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
we don't need to hear any more.
I mean, I need to hear a little bit
Oh,
of the
do you?
George Carlin.
Okay.
I mean, but before we get to that,
Yeah.
I hate this AI
so much.
so
it's the
much.
most irritating breakfast radio
The
voice.
worst, the
Like-
worst, most annoying. Like, there is a world in which someone could pitch me this special with a different voice, and maybe I'd be more receptive to it. But it's like they've created the most
Dudezy.
a
Dudezy.
Dudezy.
Even the name. Like, if Dudezy had an appearance, like you can just.
Do you
the
know
most
who'd hate
punchable
Dudezy?
face.
George Carlin.
Yeah.
George Carlin would fucking hate Dudezy.
But why do you think that they. Like, George Carlin has such a specific kind of attitude and voice and
Yeah.
that is so opposite to Dudezy. Like, I just think it's so strange that they didn't pick a generic
Someone who was
voice.
already, well, just someone who's
Not
a bit
Jo-
more neutral.
Neutral.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
considered rather than the
Dudezy
most
is like the
irritating-
opposite to George Carlin.
Yeah.
And the fact that the AI is, yes, so completely and diametrically removed from like what the next things. Why does it need to be in reaction to that?
Unless, like, because when George Carlin
Yeah.
started, he was, like a
Yeah, but
not
he wasn't
vaudeville, but
Dudezy.
He wasn't Dudezy, but he was like, like a kind of, mainstream sort of TV comedian, like the equivalent.
I
of,
mean,
like,
even
a
Dudezy, like in the year 2024, like AI is still like so, like Dudezy.
Well,
It's
it makes
still,
me think of that like Simpsons gag when they get the DJ bot to replace the
Oh,
radio
yeah,
host. It's
yeah.
like, how about those clowns in Congress? What a
Right.
bunch of clowns! Like,
I
it's
mean,
got
it
that
does
vibe.
feel the same, but I need to hear
Okay.
some of how it does George Carlin just so I can get a vibe for it. Is that possible?
Yes. Sorry, Amy, can we just pause again? I think if that's AI-generated audience noise, awesome. And can we get some of that for our next live show recording? It sounds real.
It does sound real, and
You can
you
hear
know
the
what?
room.
I'm fine with, but also that's a lot of applause that they've AI generated from themselves at the start of this pretend special. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Dudezy, you don't. Anyway, it's even hilarious that they have applause. What's the point of that applause? There was nobody in an audience. There was
Good
no applause
point.
happening. This is literally being created.
Yeah, but you never hear a stand-up special without an applause, though, do you?
I mean, you could.
Who?
I mean, well, there are
Some easy jokes to make
no,
there.
no, there are ones that have been recorded without an audience, but there's
Really?
yeah. I mean, Maria Bamford's done stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I
so
mean,
it's just so does that more like spoken word then?
well, but okay, so this gets interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think it's what the audience that changes that? Like,
Hmm.
because people are laughing at home. Like,
Yeah.
if you're watching something on television that's recorded in front of an audience, you're not necessarily laughing at the same spots those audiences are laughing.
Yeah, I think it is different because it's kind of like part of that symbiotic relationship that the performer has is, you've crafted your jokes based on audience reactions.
Yeah, but what if I just came in and did all my jokes into this nice microphone and then we got Dudezy to put in some AI audience in the background? You wouldn't be able to tell. And does that mean that it's not?
I
Because
guess
then it's
not.
sending the same signal, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess
I think
so.
I've talked myself around on this one. But it seems weird that the AI has created itself a very long round of applause.
All right, continue, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to start off with a heartfelt apology. I'm sorry it took me so long to come out with new material, but I do have a pretty good excuse. I was dead. So technically, it wasn't my fault. If you want to blame somebody, you're going to have to blame God,
Oh, stop.
which we
pause.
all know is
just like
I mean, yeah, okay. Well, it does. I mean, there was some similarities to his style and sound.
in the sound, definitely.
yeah.
but it's just so like it's so clearly the fingernail deep in terms of what George Carlin at the latter stage of his career.
What
he
it
was
does
about.
not seem to have the capacity to do, based on that one joke, is it feels very much like it is able to take what's already out there and combine it into something, but it isn't able to take it and elevate it. I guess when it becomes scary and dangerous is when you can take all those ingredients but then do what he would do today, rather than this like cut and paste idea of like, well, really all you've got to work with is the ideas and concepts of someone who was like, the AI hasn't got a way to go, let's take what George Carlin thought back then and extrapolate it forward 30 years to like.
Well, did you read that bit of news about so AI companies are freaking out because there's a bunch of law firms who are saying, well, hang on, a lot of this material they're drawing from is copywritten.
Yes.
So you can't just trawl the internet, gather all this data, and then repurpose it. Because
Well, it's bad luck because that's exactly what they've been doing.
Yeah. But like, I wonder if that will be enforceable at all. Like whether
How?
Well, with something like this, there's clearly, it's amazing this was even able to be released without being like slapped with a cease and desist or whatever.
There are so many aspects of it being Wild West at the moment where there's not regulations in place. And so everybody just does things until people tell them
You can't
do it anymore.
Yeah.
And hope that the genie doesn't get out of the bottle.
That served us so well with social media
It'll
far.
be fine,
It'll be
right?
fine.
I'm sure there'll
We'll
be
get
no
to a
negative consequences.
when we can completely make a representation of someone that's imperceptible from reality.
Oh, yeah. And we won't be able to tell what's true and untrue in any situation.
I'm sick of the truth.
It's fine. I'm so sick
I
of
like multiple choice.
I've found the world too easy to understand up until this point. I need to have a general cloud of misinformation over everything.
Do you think there will be a comedian, though, at some point who's like, okay, I give full permission, like someone who they know
Yeah, 100%.
terminally ill?
Comedians will do everything. So desperate for attention
and love.
That's why there's never been a good comedy union, because like there'll always be some comedian scab who'll cross the finger line.
I'll do it. I'll take the job.
do it, yeah.
So you think like you could see a world in which someone is like, they say Bowie with Black Star, his last album, that he knew he was dying, and so a lot of that went into the writing of that album. You could see a comic being like, okay, I'm going to write one last stand-up special, and feel free to take my voice and create this and release it, and so my kids.
I'd be surprised that
profits.
by the time this podcast comes out, it hasn't already happened.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Like, people are always looking to hack the system, be the person who, there's been a reward through this social media revolution, evolution, whatever the fuck it is, that we all see that if you can be the person who finds you're the star of the next big thing, that's where the real opportunity is, right? And then we've just shown people this pattern of you can become famous using this thing, you can leverage it. Here are the success stories of it. And so everyone's always looking for the next. I want to be, Matt Rife was the guy who became big on doing crowd work online, and now everybody's, doing crowd work online. I mean, you see it happen all the time. So if you told some comedian that they could record all their stuff and then continue to release albums after their death, they'd probably kill themselves on the spot, to make it happen if that was part of the deal.
I mean, but you'd be, for what reason? Legacy. I mean, beyond
ego.
So beyond providing for your family, whatever, it's just ego.
Oh, I didn't even consider a family.
Well, that's what I was
ego.
thinking is the reason to do it. It's like, so sell this special after I die so my family can make some residuals or whatever. But you're saying, no, they'll just do it to be eternal.
Yeah. I mean, there'd be the bonus of being able to feed your family.
What would it take for an AI company comes to you and say, we want to license your face and your voice for the production of, what would it take?
I'd be happy they asked.
Really?
Yeah, I think we're going to live in a world where just people are going to take all that shit and never give you any money for any of it. So,
right.
So if there's a world in which somebody is willing to recompense you for something that they could have stolen from your house.
I mean, we've talked about it on this show. We have enough material out
so
there
much
that someone could easily
You could do a TOFOP AI. This could be a TOFOP AI.
Oh my God, wouldn't
How
that
do
be?
you know?
That's the Black Mirror episode.
We're inside it now.
Yeah.
How do we know that this is not an entire...
We have to do that. We have to do it, and not, but we got to be disciplined and not reveal, and see if anyone notices. So just in the middle of a year, we
Yeah.
drop an AI episode, and then we just keep going, and then we see if anyone.
But I don't
notices.
think we want to be on the side of the AI. Like, it shouldn't.
We
like,
develop our own.
Oh,
ethical
we
AI.
develop our. Okay, no, this is a much better
AI.
plan. Charlie and Will, they're doing
Ethical AI. And so
everyone relax could be our slogan. So it's everyone relax and then colon ethical AI company. We've pivoted to an ethical AI company.
we've talked about it enough. So
Yeah.
I feel like so to make it ethical,
Yes.
it means we only repurpose our own image and like our own likeness and voice. That makes it ethical, right?
Oh, well,
Because we're not stealing from anyone. We're not putting words into other people's mouths or anything like that. It's just us
but what's the purpose of us? Like,
living forever, legacy.
but are you talking about us actually living together? Or
No, no, I'm definitely not talking about us living together. We're not Bert and Ernie.
living forever?
Yeah.
Or do you mean the AI representations of us in our show would live forever?
The AI represent, or both. So the real show, so you'd have like OG TOFOP Wil and Charlie
Yeah.
or whatever, like, Everyone Relax Wil and Charlie. And then you've got new material being produced every year
But we're not doing it anymore.
by AI.
What are we doing? Running
We're
the
dead.
AI company?
We've been long dead.
Oh, no, we did. Okay, that was what I was trying to
Oh, yeah,
clarify.
sorry, yeah.
So we're not living
there'd
forever.
There'd be a crossover period. We'd develop AI
Yeah.
to a point. I guess we'd have to make. We don't have to make any money from it, but it would be nice.
Well,
if
we won't make any
won't.
money from it, I'm sure. But like, if we're going to run our ethical AI, well,
But
is it just
the
for
goal
us?
is legacy.
So the goal is that
Everyone Relax will never die. That there will always be Everyone Relax for eternity.
but it won't be us, so it doesn't matter. Like,
Well,
Like,
no,
is that a
'cause we
legacy?
can set the parameters.
if an AI is making the show,
you have to obviously.
what if the AI is better at the show than we are?
probably will be after
Yeah.
a while because it's a learning. It's
Right.
open learning.
We've learnt nothing.
but I.
But if it was truly to represent us, wouldn't it have to learn at the exact same rate that we learn at, right? Like, because it would be no
Yeah, but you
good. It
can-
would spoil the show if it had an AI accelerated learning. So it does one episode like we do it, and then by the next episode, it's actually made it into a good podcast.
No, but I think you'd set the parameters, right? So if you look
Yeah.
at the parameters of our show, like, and the way we always said, don't listen to the first
Yeah.
100 episodes or whatever. So we set the parameters.
But so are we
When
saying
we
that to
code-
the AI
yes,
though?
when we
Like,
code
we're
the
putting that
AI,
in there?
Will and Charlie move at this pace.
Yeah.
The show evolves like this. You
But
know,
isn't part of what formed us, don't listen to the first 100 episodes? If you don't feed it in, does it have an incomplete picture of who we are? Because part
No,
of
no,
who we
no.
are is
I'm
that
saying
we came from that.
No, I'm saying feed all that in, but it's
Yeah.
more about AI learns how our show evolved
Mhm.
and the pace at which we're evolved, the snail's pace at which
Yes.
the show has finally gone from being in my front room and my rental into this studio
Yeah.
here took
I mean, technically, it's
14
only made
years.
it about 11 kilometres, I reckon, from where you used to live.
but with like studio lighting
yes.
and multiple cameras and stuff. So the AI knows that's how we develop. So if you extrapolate 14 years
Yes.
from like garbage to acceptable,
Mhm.
and then whatever the next generation from acceptable to
That's what it's
good.
ethical about our AI, is it evolves at the same rate as
The-
it doesn't
the
have an
humans.
accelerated.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what
Okay.
makes it ethical.
Yeah.
So whatever the creative or
Yeah. It can't accelerate a pre-existingly established pace of like evolution.
that's right.
Yes.
So it
it's
has
not
to
bad, actually.
So it has to understand us and the way our
Mhm.
views have changed as
Yes.
well, and our opinions on things have changed.
Yeah, it needs to evolve, but
And-
just not at a disproportionate rate to.
That's right. And so those opinions that
Mm.
we have now
Yes.
with the AI have to change in 14 years because our opinions
Yes.
14 years ago changed around certain things. I mean, I'm sure AI Will is still like championing OK Computer or whatever.
Yes.
You know, AI Charlie's probably still going on about 5 and Where's Jay and all that kind of stuff.
Maybe
But-
Jay's back by then. Maybe Jay's problematic.
Well, that would be not good,
Mm.
but that would at least like give the AI something to deal with, because that will be the conundrum, right? Is it's like, well, how is society? Because we changed our opinions and values and
Yes.
stuff based on how society shifted. I think, like, most performers did that. So the AI has to be within the parameters we set, moving like that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I like this. This does feel more ethical.
Yeah.
I like your
EAI.
company. Can I invest?
Yes, you can. One crusty donut. How long have we been doing? Okay. I've got some letters to get
Yeah, okay. We've got to get to some letters.
because I promised last episode that we're going to get through the mailbag, and we got through
We
3.
got to some, though. We dipped into the mailbag.
We dipped, but there's more to get to. And
Okay.
people have been very, very patient. If you want to send us some mail, the best way to do that is to go to everyonerelax.co. There's a little contact form there. You just select the show you want to contact, whether it's Willosophy or Two Guys, One Cup or TOFOP, and you'll be able to find us. Okay, here we go. This is from Rach. Now, when I read this letter out, you're going to be like, oh, Charlie, why'd you include this? But I think it's worth revisiting
okay.
this topic. No,
No.
it's not about you. It's about me.
Okay.
It's about the story I told.
Yes, about stealing.
No.
No?
No, it's not about that.
Oh, it's not about that.
Hey, Charlie, and in brackets, and Will.
Okay.
So it's more directed to me. Long-time listener, first-time caller. In episode 401, Charlie talked about changing a tyre on the way to the airport and how he thought his wife should have been more impressed. So do you remember that story? It was when we were in Portugal and we were racing to the airport, and just as we got to the airport, I busted a tyre and I got out and managed to change the tyre and get the car and get Jem and Iona to the airport. And I was saying that, like, Jem wasn't more impressed. Now, Rach says, as a woman, let me tell you, there is nothing sexier than a capable man. Someone who changes the tyre, can hang a heavy picture frame on a wall, and can build anything out of wood. Hot.
Okay.
I can change a tyre. Out of those 3 things, I don't think I've ever hung a
I
picture.
think after watching a YouTube tutorial, you could do both of the other things.
Make something out of wood?
Yeah.
I've thought actually...
I'm not make anything out of wood, but I think that,
Make
yes, you
something
could
out of
make something out of
I
wood.
actually have this fantasy. I like, oh, what am I going to be like when I'm sort of older and,
Yeah.
doing more things just at home, And I was like, maybe I'll make furniture.
Yeah.
How hard is it to make furniture?
I mean, I think probably pretty hard, but
Really?
I think you could learn how to do it.
Basic. I'm not talking like, anything.
Not good furniture.
Basically, I'm just going to get a stump and sand the edges.
If you made the worst furniture and then tried to sell it as if it was like...
Just nails jutting out of it. Can't hold even like
You haven't
10
you haven't
kilos of weight.
sanded anything.
That's just a tree. So I just spat on you. Hope the camera. Did the cameras pick that up? Delete that. Amy, can we delete that from the edit?
Oh
if
my
before
God.
that gets released. Okay. Rach continues. Maybe in the early days of a relationship, the sexy feat of changing a tyre would have resulted in a 3-day bang fest.
Oh, I went to 3-day Bang Fest. It was great.
It was good.
Yeah.
Day 4 was a mess, though.
Yeah.
However, by the time it played out, there were years of resentment over unwiped crumbs, farts, and accidental shrunken items of laundry built up, and your manly display of sexiness went largely unnoticed. Keep changing those tyres, Charlie. It's a fantasy every woman is thinking about. Amy.
Not your wife.
We should introduce Amy to our audience. So this is Mike has gone on leave for a time. He's had a baby. He's going to do the right thing and spend more time at home. And so this is our new producer, who confusingly is not named Mike. It's Amy.
Hi. You can call me Mike if it just makes things easier.
Can we? I think that would be better.
I mean, I also think that would be better.
Can we call you Mike?
Okay, thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike.
So,
The M in Amy stands for Mike.
Yeah, perfect.
yeah.
So do you agree with our listener, Rach, that a guy who can change things is appealing? Oh, you know what? Anyone who's capable, handy, is that an attractive quality?
Definitely. I think that's, especially with women, with your famous, your butch dykes, like that stereotype exists.
So that's
Because
an
I think a lot
attract.
of people find it attractive as well in the opposite sex, as
you
well
know
as in
what?
men.
Is it?
Yeah.
But I am okay. But there are so many people, including myself, who are incapable. Like the time I changed that tire, I didn't know that I was going to be able to do it. Like I attempted it, and like I remember changing tires maybe like 10, 20 years ago and managed to pull it off. It wasn't like, it was a bit of luck involved in that. Like people who aren't capable find plenty of partners.
I don't think
Why
it,
aren't,
I don't think it's
handy
the,
people the most.
Well, it's not the only compelling thing, but I think it's also just one of those things that is like, even I am like, I'd be impressed by it if I were there that day
Yeah,
and you did it. I'd be like,
it's pretty
"Yeah,
impressive.
Was
that's
it the
pretty
speed
impressive."
that was impressive?
The
And
I think it was. I think it was the. Well, my wife wasn't impressed, but I think that was because
No.
we were under time pressure and
Yeah,
trying to get
you
to
had
an
somewhere to
airport
be.
Yeah,
and
but
stress.
but I think that's
But
more
not
reason
even
to
like
be impressed.
a kiss on the cheek when I got on the plane
Yeah.
of like, well done, you got us there. But
No.
I understand. Like,
Well, she doesn't consider that proper work.
but
She'd-
Jamie's
if you'd written her a poem, she would have enjoyed that more.
yeah, no, but she's actually quite. But Jem's also quite handy herself. Like she's quite practical and good with stuff. But I think it sort of comes down to more. I think expertise, right? Regardless of if it's like physical capability, I'm handy.
Yeah.
I'm turned on when someone's like an expert in a field. Like I love when someone tells me something that they're fascinated with or they're really good at. Like I remember once a taxi driver, he built his own sound engineering boards for like music studios, and he built them from scratch. And he was so into it that I sat in the cab after we'd arrived at my place
Yeah.
and listened for 20 minutes as he described the minutiae of like welding together this like soundboard and stuff. Isn't that what is the kind of attractive quality? Is someone's really good at
I
something?
mean, I find that bananas.
Really?
Yeah. There's no way I'm staying in a cab with some dude to hear about his homemade soundboards. He's not going to have that. I'm like, are you going to murder me and put me in your soundboards? Do you have a soundproof room at your house that you're going to drag me
It was
back
more
to?
though that he just kind of like he just knew all this stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, it's so impressive that you know like how that circuit creates this sound. And he was telling me that like there's certain kind of old school like tubes that they use in like old mixing desks and stuff. And I was like, that to me is super, super impressive. Like more than capability, it's expertise.
Okay. I don't know if I'm that impressed by that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What turned you on?
I mean, not that. I don't think that's what I want to answer either. Thank
All right.
you.
This came from Rita.
Yes.
A bin dilemma. Charlie, this is another one directed at me. A bin conundrum I'm seeking advice of or perhaps validation. Feel
Okay.
free, both of you, to chime in
Yeah.
if you have an opinion. I visited my folks over Christmas. Out the front of their house, a bin stood on the footpath. I asked, whose bin is that? I was told it belongs to a house 7 doors down. The bin owners are too lazy to wheel the bin down a lane, which is next to my parents' house, around the back to another lane parked behind their own house. So instead, they just leave it out the front of my folks' place until bin day, at which point they wheel it to the front of their house to be emptied. So for 6 days a week, my parents have to look at this bin that everyone puts their dog shit in as they walk by.
Oh my God.
They get their vengeance by putting their kitty litter and dog poo in it,
Yes.
but I feel that is not real justice. I need advice from a bin dispute expert. Should they move the bin away from their house? What would Charlie do?
Okay.
She's asking me
What
first.
would you do? No, I want to know what you do.
I would
I also
absolutely and make a show of it. I would wheel it back to their house 100%. I would maybe even wheel it, like open their gate and wheel it onto their front lawn.
would you feel it with poo first?
Not fill it with poo. The
Okay.
poo, I think, I'm not trying to escalate the situation.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to make a point. Your property, your bin, keep it
Yeah.
there. What would you do?
I mean, I don't know what I would do because I hate confrontation. So that.
But you're not confronting them if you're just wheeling it
Well,
to
yes,
their
you
place.
are.
Really?
If you're wheeling a bin.
If they're home, you're confronting.
Yeah,
But if
but
you
I mean, in general, you're
send a
confronting.
message.
They're going to be like, what's the message though?
Keep your bin in your yard, mate.
Yeah, but they already know that they're meant to keep their bin in their yard. Is that really going to.
Oh, no, they don't. Clearly, they think that they can leave the bin. Like,
I mean, they think they
Here's
can
what I-
because.
this is what.
But they know
You think
that's
I'm
not what you're meant to
you
do.
think you can just wheel your bin in front of my house? My house?
They do clearly
my
think
family?
that because you're doing nothing.
No, that's not going to happen.
Okay, you're going to make a statement.
I'm going to make a statement.
Yeah.
Mike, what would you do?
I just find it interesting how many, if 7 houses down, right? Do
Yeah.
you think the other 6 people in between were all wheeling the bin back and they didn't want them to wheel the bin back and they're the only ones that haven't?
That's actually a good point.
Yeah.
Why did they go 7 houses down?
Well, 7 is the.
God is God closest to God. The devil is 6, right?
I mean, I think it might have been genuinely that idea of like, yeah, we left it 3 down, it got wheeled back. We left it 5 down.
Yes, that's probably
It
what
got
happened.
wheeled back. Yeah.
They found their mark.
They pushed it as far as, I mean, it's probably that perfect distance that's a long way to wheel it back as well.
Yeah.
They
'Cause
need
if you
the
get him-
excuse to say
Yeah.
that, oh, it's so long to wheel it back.
But
Yeah.
still, like, take your bin back.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we're all in
Yeah.
agreement that
yeah,
you
they're
can't.
both fine, apparently.
You can't. Oh, really? You
Yeah,
can't leave
agreement sounds like it should be wrong,
Wrong.
but it isn't, apparently.
Okay. So we agree that you can't leave a bin in front of a stranger's house.
Well, not for a week.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, when I used to live in Sydney, in
24
in a
hours
high
kind of,
density
you know.
area, like bins were all over the shop. Like we had bins out the front of our building,
Yeah.
but there was bins everywhere, and so you could be sort of forgiven for like, oh yeah, I just forgot to collect it. But this sounds like a suburban street.
Yeah, but I would have said that you like, I mean, your standard is you put it out at night, you like bring it back in the next day, right? But let's just say 24 hours to give people, people got shit on and you can't always get it perfectly timed. You're in a community, some other people might bring them closer to the house or off the street or whatever it might be. Sometimes the bins are community work. They're left on the street, but then like someone else who's out early brings them halfway back.
Yeah.
You have to do the rest of it yourself. Like, I just think, don't we as a community, like, want the bins off the street?
Off the street.
Except for the bins that are meant to be in the
Well,
street.
unless you are in like where I lived, a high density with lots of apartments and stuff, and it's just not
High
room.
density.
I actually, post Christmas, I had such an overflow of like, in my bins,
Yeah.
in the recycling and stuff. And so I did that thing that we've discussed many times in this show where I waited till the night before bin night.
Yeah.
And rather than targeting one bin, because I could have just gone to my neighbors and dumped it all in one, I
spread it out.
spread it out
Yeah.
over all the bins. So I felt like I was doing not the wrong thing because it was the night before bin night, 8:30. I waited till the sun went down.
When I was moving
But I
out-
was aware that someone might bring out a last minute, bottle or something like that. So I left in like at least, that much room at the
Yeah,
front.
I left. But when I was moving out of my house last year,
It's fucking annoying. A real pain in the ass to
There was-
spread that shit around.
I mean, I was getting some steps in.
Oh, yeah.
I was walking the neighborhood, like just
Totally.
topping
I went
up a bit
and
in
down.
each.
Oh my God, I was folding like
Yeah.
cardboard and sticking into people's bins. I was very conscientious in what I did. I felt that was
Oh,
again,
yeah.
ethical.
Sometimes what you do, I don't know if you got to this point, but because I was doing it, like clearing stuff out of the house, was sometimes I would rearrange people's bins.
Yes, I did that. I actually did. Someone's recycling was wrong. They got the wrong
Yeah.
things in there. They had the wrong stuff in there, and so I put it into the
Yeah.
red bin. Yeah, there's something wrong with this. Okay, this comes in. So one of our bonus episodes that would have played over the summer.
Yeah.
Was when I was at Sydney Airport and I found that clump of pubes in the urinal,
Mhm.
and there was a mystery.
Oh, yeah.
about, like what happened.
Yes.
So Matt, it's not like a theory, but it's kind of, I don't know, what you call it, additional evidence or another kind of twist in the tail.
Okay.
So after listening for over 10 years, apparently pubic hair in a urinal is what gets me to write in for the first time.
Okay. Well.
I just spotted this at an airport in Portugal, which is a strange coincidence. I won't show you the link, but essentially he was at a urinal and there was a razor blade, like a shaver on top of the urinal.
Oh.
So he's saying it's very
Okay.
suspicious. I think there is someone who travels the world and shaves their pubes at the
Mm.
urinal.
Mm-hmm. Maybe so that, like, it's a catch me if you can situation.
Because
and
he's been
have to
identified
change-
by their pubes.
Needs to change his appearance in every.
I mean, that is one that I have been thinking about a lot since we recorded. and I
Yeah.
still have
I want to know.
great insight. I
Mean,
mean,
no, I mean, it's
Mike?
Oh, let's not. No,
Don't
it's
worry
the
about
first
it.
episode. Let's
yeah,
not, please.
don't worry about
I
it.
don't feel like this is a good start to this relationship.
Okay. All right. This is from Aaron. Hey guys, I was just listening to Paul Kelly narrate his new book, How to Make Gravy,
Oh yeah,
and I
it'd
thought
be
of
great
you-
if it was just a recipe for gravy.
yeah.
It's like 60,000 words.
Well, it gives it in the song,
on how to
right?
make gravy. No, but it's just different gravy
Yeah, okay.
recipes.
I thought of you guys as he mentioned in the chapter after the show a famous Irish entertainer
Oh, yeah.
who liked to have a beautiful woman waiting for him backstage to service him immediately after he finished one of his dance extravaganzas.
Oh, yes.
Not sure where Paul Kelly heard it from, but you now have a published reference that will remain in the annals of history. Further proof you can't delete anything from the internet. Ironically, Michael Flatley was also trying to make gravy
I mean,
after his
but
show.
managed to delete it mostly from the internet
Except
until
from
we
Paul
brought it back up again.
Kelly's
Paul Kelly
autobiography.
remembers.
Do you ever get sick of hearing how to make gravy around Christmas time?
No. No, I like the song How to
You know
Make
they're
Gravy.
making a movie about the song now.
Yeah, Meg Washington is involved in
Oh, really?
writing it, I believe. Yeah.
I mean, it is funny. Like, I really did have a good listen to it because it was one of the Paul Kelly songs that I'd never somehow I'd missed. In the last couple of years, I've really been listening to it, and I had the thought of like, oh God, this is such a story, isn't it? Like, you can really see all the characters and the siblings and all that kind of stuff. It'd be a great idea for a film. And then I looked it up. It's like, oh yeah, someone already had that.
Yeah.
Very obvious idea. Okay. Sean has sent us a link and says wants us to discuss this link to Facebook. Okay. So this is you may have heard of this story. Year 3 student Emma Glenfield has gone viral thanks to a school project on magpies that wound up conducting some cutting edge research almost by accident. Do you know anything about this?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. All right. Very. That's her. Adorable. Hang on. So she
Okay,
did this
yeah.
report. Community science helps us unlock some pretty. Hang on. Is this her actual report? No. Okay. This is by Tom. It started off like a kid's essay,
Oh,
so I got
okay.
confused. Community science helps us unlock some pretty quirky aspects of the natural world, and those discoveries often come from unlikely places. Take Year 3 student Emma Glenfield, who started with a simple question about magpies and wound up conducting some cutting-edge research almost by accident. Emma keeps a journal filled with questions. She doesn't always answer them all. It's more of an exercise in thinking about the world. One day, while she was watching her school's resident magpie, Mr. Swoops-a-lot, terrorizing students, teachers, and parents alike, a question struck her: why do magpies swoop? And this is Emma now. He's been coming to school for a long time and he's been swooping all the dads. I noticed that and I wondered why.
Ah,
Who do they swoop and who do they target?
yes.
Emma's teacher, Luke Carr, thought those questions would make an excellent maths project. So, armed with questions, Emma went into the field. The field in this case was the Blue Mountains Grammar School, Mr. Swoop-a-Lot's territory.
Yeah.
I love how they've actually
Mr.
capitalized
Swoop-a-Lot.
Mr. Swoop-a-Lot like it's a real person. I watched the people he swooped and I recorded it, Emma said. And then I got everything recorded and I figured out the people Mr. Swoop-a-Lot swooped, were male, they were tall,
Mm.
and they had thin or receding hair.
Oh, yeah.
With the help from Mum, Emma set up an online survey and printed out flyers with a QR code. Oh my God, this kid's a genius. She then hit the local park and asked strangers to fill it in.
Okay.
She didn't carry around a baseball bat like me. She also asked students and teachers at her school. Emma asked respondents how old they were, how tall they were, what their hairstyles were, how much they weighed, and whether or not they were hurt as a result of the swooping. Emma was so excited when the 150 students and teachers completed the questionnaire, Mr. Carr said. But of course, it didn't end there. The following day, I walked Emma out of the gate to meet her mum, and her mum said, yeah, it's gone viral. There's over 30,000 people
God.
who participated in the survey. Tens of thousands of people from right around the world did the survey and sent Emma their responses. So, what did she find? Being 8 years old and not familiar with an Excel spreadsheet, Emma found a special way to present her data using Lego.
Oh, my God.
Is that the most adorable thing you've ever seen?
Wow.
And it turns out her hypothesis was right. The data shows very clearly in Lego, men with less hair are getting swooped more often.
I mean, that's unfair.
But that doesn't make any sense why I'm getting swooped. I'm wearing a helmet. Oh, do you think it's the glint of the helmet?
Right. They love that smooth
Smooth dome. According
Yeah.
to magpie expert Daryl Jones, professor at Griffith University, it's the first time anyone has ever examined the link between magpie swooping and appearance, which
Yes.
baffles me. The number of respondents to Emma's survey also dwarfs anything researchers have ever been able to gather. The sample size is so big that Emma and her mum worked out that her results have just a 1% margin of error.
Oh, my gosh.
And Professor Jones is now combing through the data to work out what else he can discover.
Great.
Mr. Carr encourages his students to do blah, blah, blah. No surprises, Emma won the Year 3 division, beating out students from around the state. I'd hope so. That means she was invited to enter the national competition. I thought it was a low chance of winning, and a low chance of winning out of Australia, she said. Blah, 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 blah. And then it's all just nice, sweet stuff about kids doing good stuff. But isn't that awesome? And does kind of actually make me think that maybe that's what's going on, is I should just ride along that dangerous stretch of road without my helmet on.
Or you've got to get a wig for your helmet. You got to put an extra layer on.
Helmet wig.
Helmet wigs.
Okay, so we're making TOFOP medical bracelets, TOFOP garden gnomes,
And helmet
and
wigs.
helmet wigs for people that don't want to get swooped. Okay, this is from someone who calls themselves Holden McGroin.
Okay. Holden McGroin. Family name, I assume, from a
Yeah.
long line of McGroins.
Scottish, I believe,
Yeah.
from the McGroin clan.
Yeah.
G'day, lads. Had a blast at the Sydney show with my two friends who were TOFOP virgins. Explaining at the pub was a challenge, and this is his version of how he explained it. Wil Anderson, you know him, and Charlie Clausen, not rhyming with awesome, from Home and Away and McLeod's Daughters. No further explanations attempted. They loved the show. They got to shake Wil and Adam's hands afterwards, hopefully not too creepy. On a lighter note, every tweak to the podcast name feed makes explaining it even trickier. So now it's TOFOP, part of Everyone Relax, which is also a comic. There's FOFOP, named after, well, it's been renamed. Well, anyway, what does TOFOP mean? Never mind. Sometimes you're your own worst enemies.
Yeah, I mean, everything in the Everyone Relax feed, they're all clearly labeled. Welcome here. Thanks for subscribing. If you want to tell people about the show, following. We don't say subscribing anymore, do we?
following.
That's the new language. We
Yeah.
say following. Thanks for listening, consuming
Thank you
the bullshit
for
that
absorbing.
Exactly. And you can support us by going to our Patreon, of course, as well. And there is a bunch of bonus content that is on the Patreon page.
Last bit of mail. This is from Nick, and this will empty out the mailbag
Oh, great.
until we meet
It
again.
won't, because we've banked a whole bunch of these episodes, and by the time it actually catches up to this time, it'll be full again.
This is to you. Will's time machine.
Okay.
Back in the day, when asking the time travel question at the end of Willosophy, Will would always preface with, I have a time machine. I don't really have a time machine. Then Willosophy went on hiatus. Now when Will asks the question, he just says, I have a time machine.
Yeah.
Will, did you take a year off to build a time machine? Fucking hell, that's wild.
I mean, if I did, I wouldn't be able to say if I did.
But if you're AI, you wouldn't say anyway, would you?
Well, all I'm saying is if I were able to invent a time machine, I wouldn't mention it to people, clearly.
What's the most, I mean, if you were Emma and you had to do a survey of all your Willosophy
Yeah.
guests and you had to ask them the time machine question, what is the most common answer? Or like, is it, what side of the spectrum are people going forward or back?
I mean, I think,
Get out your Lego.
I think,
Make me a
you know, the
spreadsheet.
weird thing is, of late, there's been a lot more future, like people who like are future forward. I always think it feels very risky, the future.
Yeah,
And I
especially
always,
this future.
I mean, yes, well, I mean, the only one that we have to deal with, this future.
Yeah, of course. What am I talking about?
We don't
I'm into
live
the
in a
mul-
multiverse.
I'm into multiverse.
I'm in this one, but
Yeah, yeah.
they'll reboot it.
No, the
and
good-
we'll
I'm
be
talking about the
fine.
good
It'll
future.
Be good. It'll be like, it'll be great. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, a lot of, I've noticed there's been a trend towards future. I think that maybe there is a little bit of people want to know
Does it work out?
what happens. Does it work out?
Well,
What
I've
do we
been-
look like in 10
I've
years or
been
20 years or 50
watching,
years?
I think the series is called Life on Netflix. It's a nature documentary narrated by Morgan Freeman.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's about the history of like all species on the planet. It's an
Mm-hmm.
amazing documentary. Like it's just the way they convey very complex subject matter in a very simple way for dumb guys like me to understand. But what I do get from watching this series is that it's all fucked. Like it doesn't matter. Like we are fleas on a dog's back, about to get
Yeah.
scratched off at any point. I mean, it matters that we should be nice to each other and do our very best.
Well, it doesn't, obviously, is what I'm hearing, because none of it means anything.
Well, that, I guess, is the digital question, the
Yeah.
AI question.
Uh,
Are we just investing in AI? Because it's like we tried the biological
we
form
tried
of
being
human.
us, and it turns
Too
out
hard.
it was too hard to be good at this.
Yeah.
So instead, we're going to hand it over to AI.
Yeah, let them make the best versions of ourselves.
I mean, it feels like a little early to give up on us.
But also, like,
Don't you think, as humans?
AI,
Like, do you feel like it is really time that the human experiment is over and we should move on to whatever's next? Or should we try to actually do this well first for a while?
the analogy I'll give you is planet Earth.
Yeah.
We gave up on the planet. Like, that was a thing, right? Do we really want to like give up on planet Earth
Yeah.
and try and colonize new planets? And we that
And
yeah.
then we're
The answer
like,
was yes.
yes.
There's
Apparently
got to be
we
something
do.
cooler than this.
Yeah.
Much better than this. I think the problem with the AI, like eternal life fantasy,
Mhm.
is that like it still needs to someone like running the servers back here.
Not many people, though.
But so how's that going to work? Like, who's staying back to make sure the servers are, staying juiced and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know, Gary.
So we're all floating around in AI eternity heaven, living whatever magical life we want. And then we notice there haven't been any admissions into AI heaven for a while.
yeah.
And then one of us gets a memo. It's like, oh, geez, it's been like a cataclysmic event.
Yeah.
There's no meat puppets left to run the servers.
No. But it'll all just be running by itself at that point.
Do you think, though, for
Yeah.
eternity? What if there's like, a meteorite's going to sort that shit out, unless we take it off planet.
Well, then we won't. Then we won't know. Then the meteorite ends it all.
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, it'd be so good.
Oh man!
All right.
All right.
That is TOFOP. Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Thanks, Will. We'll be back next week. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
Motherfucker!